Merry Christmas, y'all. When it comes to any competition, you all know as well as we do, no matter what it is, it usually is the competitor that makes the fewest mistakes that comes out on top. Well, if you've been listening to this series, our goal has been to talk about our boots on the ground mistakes or misunderstandings that we did ourselves or saw others experience to help you be that one step ahead of the competition and to help you succeed. So in the spirit of Christmas, we have just a few more gifts ready to send your way. Tonight's focus is mistakes and misconceptions with calling, strategies, and gear. So grab up that cup of eggnog, warm up to the campfire, and let's start unwrapping that discussion, our ElkBros shout outs, and questions from our awesome ElkBros mailbox. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your hosts Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas, and joining me tonight's crew. That's right, we got WWJGD in the house. He's teed up and ready to roll. We got our ElkBros coach and owner of the Western Contours podcast and Western Fly Covers, the man with the golden voice, Mr. Guy Duplantier, is in the house
gentlemen?
With us. And from way up north, that's right, we got our brother and elk hunting coach, Mr. Travis O'Shea from Canada, with us tonight, world champion elk caller and all. And that's right, another one of our ElkBros coaches has decided to join us tonight from the Dallas DFW area, the Venezuelan Mafia guys. Mr. Manano Graterone is in the house. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, boys. Ho, ho.
What's going on, boys?
What's up,
boys?
Come on, fellas.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Nice to see you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Because
I don't think y'all can hear me, but my daughter said I should pump out some jingle bells with my mouth call, but I tried it earlier. I don't think y'all heard me, man. So they got to laughing at me so hard. I had jingle bells going and Noel with my mouth call, you know.
You got to go up to the top, Gil, and change that setting original sound for musicians.
you got to change that setting. Now we're going to hear the big old rendition of what?
Jingle bells.
Jingle bells.
Let's hear it, boss.
Ready?
Be a diaphragm. That was more turkey call than elk call, though.
Yeah. Oh, he had that going on, man.
Had them all going nuts in there, man.
That's funny.
So
That
Travis,
sounds familiar.
Travis, finally, welcome back, man. We haven't seen you in a while here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Trav.
Trav, I thought they had pissed you off when you were when they were in Canada, because I ain't seen you in so long.
We did.
They did. They took me on a
Just
hike,
getting
and
over it.
I finally found my way back from the hike they took me on.
There you go. Figures. You were following Joe, huh?
Yeah.
God knows.
Exactly.
So I got to ask you, man, because like I was going to send you like a happy Thanksgiving, and I was like, oh man, I think their Thanksgiving is like in October or something, right?
When is Thanksgiving? I don't know. November. Well, I don't even know when it is here. November 11th is Remembrance Day, and Thanksgiving is, I don't even know.
Well, see,
When-
that's how we know it's not a Canadian holiday right there, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think we're always like a day or two ahead of you guys, and we have turkey, so
Right? We got turkey.
I don't know. They just ring the bell, and when food's there, I come running.
Hell yeah.
But what about Christmas? Everything the same with that, right?
Yeah. That's still January.
Okay. Yeah.
Bill stuck on that one for a second.
I got you. Yeah, no, that's
Goodness, man.
it's all the same. Yeah, and
Man, you
and
got to
Helen-
get the missus to come down on a show with us, dude. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, she's a riot, man.
Yeah,
Can
I
they-
I
told
had
her to-
Travis's wife. I had so much fun with her, man. She's such a trip, man.
Well, the only thing
Yeah.
is, if she comes on with us, I'm gonna have to stay here for an hour like this.
Yeah.
for her to know who I am.
She'll just keep wanting to take pictures of my nano. You know?
Mm.
yeah, the star.
The
So
star
for
of the
those
show.
that are curious, Canadian Thanksgiving is October 9th.
October.
wow.
Okay, good.
October
Well,
9th.
he was like Thanksgiving, so I was like, I know
Thanksgiving.
celebrate.
Yeah. I
We've
don't.
talked so much about that hunt in the last few podcasts, Travis and your boys and stuff like that. Again,
Yeah.
I'll be out of line. We're not thanking you guys for the hospitality that you showed us. It was an amazing trip, one that I'll cherish forever. I learned a tremendous amount. I got to spend time with you. You helped me so much on my calling, and just a little bit of time that we spent together meant the world.
And it was
to me.
all
So-
downhill from there.
Yeah,
That's
no,
where it ended.
yeah, it was. I learned a lot and RC and I both did. I mean, getting to hunt with Dylan and Mr. Hagler. I mean, it was crazy good.
Yeah.
You know, they're just great people, and
Oh yeah.
and they were down to learn. You know, it was like we were down to learn, they were down to learn, and it was just a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we learned a lot that trip. Got so close so many times, and
Oh yeah.
I'll never, going into our content here, I don't want to give too much away, but I'll never forget one of the things you told me. You said, that bull's starting to figure you guys out, so you need to go in there and do something different. And you had us put on a calf party, and that bull it took 45 minutes for that to erupt.
Yeah.
But once it did, I mean, it took literally 45 minutes, and Dylan and I were like, this ain't going to work, man. And then one last little calf note, and the bull goes,
Yeah.
and that let RC and Brian know right where those bulls were. So, again, man, the miscues that we had some of them were self-inflicted, and some of them weren't. Some of them were just those animals wasn't their day to die.
Yeah. That's right.
Learned so much there, so can't thank you enough. Can't wait to come back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You guys are welcome anytime.
Well, I
Yeah.
tell you, the next time I go back, man, it's going to be like October and focusing on them friggin' moose, man, because that's after
That was so fun stalking that
Yeah.
moose,
talking
dude.
those boogers and getting that close to them, and as big as they are, man.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's
They're-
unbelievable. Yeah.
I didn't know,
They're giant.
you see them on TV, but TV doesn't do them justice till you're standing in front of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Oh my God, they're as big as a bus. I mean, oh my gosh, they're literally as big as a Ford Ranger. They're
Yeah.
humongous,
They are huge.
And you don't know when you call to him, is he gonna come in and be all right, or is he gonna attack you? Right?
Yeah, it's
That's-
going to be gnarly.
They're they got their own attitude,
I can
right?
run on
So-
the other side of a tree real quick, but so-
Oh yeah, they're big, but they're fast, man. They're
Yeah.
it's
Agile.
unbelievable.
You know,
Yeah,
people are like that. They big animals like a buffalo, like bison. Have bison on the ranch. A lot of people get around them and they think that those, because they're so big and they're so calm, they think that it's a slow animal until
Yeah.
the cougar's flipping them up about 15 foot in the air.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I've been
Yeah.
around enough slow elk bulls and stuff like that in my days working cows that you come to have a healthy amount of respect for even a cow, a bovine
Oh, yeah.
cattle. I mean, they're very slick, especially those bulls. They're agile, and man, they got a little ornery, they get a little mean streak in them, and they'll just flat grind you into the dirt.
It's like,
Yeah.
like messing with Beto. He got only one speed wheel. He will get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I got to, that's for sure.
Hey, Duplantier, didn't you have like a Christmas gift? Or I think it had something to do with a special rhyming carol or something like that from Manano.
Yeah, sorry, man. I was sitting here reading about Canadian Thanksgiving.
I mean, this is a gift for all of our listeners. I think Duplantier found this just as a. It doesn't sound. I tried doing it. It didn't sound as good, man. So we need to see that voice
right here, Manano.
Yeah.
Right there, Manano. You get 3 shots at it. You got to go faster each time.
No, man, I'm not able to read it. Beto, can you do it?
Which one?
The
one
with the rainbow. The one with the rainbow.
Share. There's the rainbow back for you, Nano.
Go ahead, Beto.
No, come on, Manano.
No, man, I forgot my glasses, bro.
Oh, you forgot.
Yeah, Beto, you can do it, bro.
I'll try it, man.
But
I'll try it for sure. It's just hilarious, man. It's got the fruits of the rainbow in it, but it says Betty bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, will it make my batter bitter? But a bit of better butter will make my batter better.
Come on, Manano. Give it a crack. You were doing better than Gil. You'll do better than Gil.
Man, I'm almost blind, bro. I forgot my glasses.
Here's the old man, Manano. Betty bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I had it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But butter will make my batter better.
You have so many bucks.
Come on, Manano. Let's hear it, man.
Come on, Manano.
Man,
Come on.
I know. Betty Butter bought some butter, but she said the butter beater, if I put in my butter, it would make my butter beater. But a bit of butter better would make my butter better.
There it is.
There you go.
Gotta go at a boy, Manano.
Manano, you got to practice it. We'll hit it after the new year.
Good job, man. That was awesome.
Hilarious.
That's good stuff, guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get like 5 different ones of those for all of us, and maybe. Have you ever watched Drunk History, y'all? Have you ever seen that before?
No, but I've seen some stuff on Instagram.
Go on YouTube, look up Drunk History, and what they do is they get these people that know history, and they sit there and they have them do some drinks before they start telling the history. And let me tell you what, it is hilarious.
All right, huh?
It is so funny, bro.
Crazy.
And that's how they change history.
Yeah. Guys, let's get this party started and head over to the ElkBros mailbox.
Yes, sir. I will start out with Kevin Orcutt from Union Grove, Wisconsin. He says, hey, guys, I've been devouring your podcast. In 2022, I went solo bow hunting, and in 2023, I went bow hunting with my cousin in Colorado. I had hunted 3 times prior with the gun, but 2022 was my first bow hunt. Last year and this year, I stock hunted until I found elk sign. Then I set up and started a call sequence for 45 minutes with no responses or no elk coming in. But on multiple occasions, I either bumped elk within 150 yards of my setup as we continued to stalk, or we saw a fresh sign showing them running out of dodge. I assume we spooked them before setting up. I think my calling is okay. Do you have any suggestion on how to keep elk in the area or pull the close ones in? Thanks. Oh man, it went crick.
No, I mean
I was looking because I wanted to see what time of the season he was going in, right? I mean they're gonna respond differently. And depending on the area and the pressure you're getting and what those elk have seen prior to you getting in there has some bearing on that.
This year, a lot of times it didn't even matter the time of season, man.
That's true.
We had a lot of silent elk at different times. I mean, elk that would sound off in the morning, but
Bookham elk though, they've usually had some bad encounters with us. When they start to just run from any sound. And then what was the wind doing, right? Did you truly have the wind in your favor? Those mountain thermals and everything else, man. Yeah. It has definitely has an effect, right? And the topography you're in can have an effect. You may think you had the wind at your at your advantage, and lo and behold, it's swirling right to them. So
So,
think about where
Yeah.
they're set up. I mean, if you're walking into a bedding area, that wind, they're in that bedding area, because the wind's typically in their favor from most directions.
Yeah. And the only thing I can add to that too is excuse me, he said he was calling for 45, and then they went up to then they went to move, and they bumped him at 150 yards. So I'm thinking those elk were probably coming in silent already, but he just didn't give it quite long enough. I mean, it's really hard to know. Do you stay 45 or do you stay an hour or do you stay an hour and a half, right?
Yeah,
But-
and what his setup looked like? Did he have a hang up spot 150 yards out?
No such thing
there's
as
some
a
good
hang up
questions.
spot.
These are all,
Mhm.
yeah, definitely some good questions because,
Yeah.
when you're set up, if you're set up in a place where there's a lot of vision, and those animals are expecting to see something in an area, that could hang them up. If there's two of you, one way to kind of deal with some of that is, and I don't know if they did it or not, but, partner call with one person up and one person back, so that, if they were pulling at 150 yards and you start going back 50 from, especially if it's an open area, you go back 50, 60, where you can still see the other shooter there and you do the calling. Well, now you have an opportunity to pull that bull a little bit further and to see if something goes on and be able to view each other. But I agree with so many good things in right there. But I agree totally, with Travis about sometimes it's not enough time.
Yeah.
Honestly, we got to give Kevin some credit for
45
setting up on his first elk hunt and being able to hang in there for 45
Absolutely.
minutes on any sequence.
Well,
Is,
Yeah.
and the technique he used of finding, of stock hunting, finding
Yeah.
good sign,
and then making a
and
sequence.
and then making
Yeah.
calls. And now he might have actually blown out elk. He might have gotten too close and they saw him before he saw them.
Right. Another thing, Joe, is I'd like Kevin to do some calls and send you a recording and listen to yourself recorded, right? Because
Right.
what sounds good to you may not be some good elk sounds, right? And I'm not bagging on anybody.
No,
but
not at all.
At the end of the day, we hear what we want to hear, and when you put it on recordings, you and anybody else that's a experienced caller can listen to it and go, ooh,
What
okay.
did every one of our guys in camp say this year? They said, I thought I sounded good.
Yeah.
Sing like Mariah
Mhm.
Carey.
Yeah.
Do what, guy?
Sing like Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
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 Instead,
mean,
it sounded like they were biting off their finger.
Yeah. So the other thing is too, is I don't know, like, Kevin, I don't know if you were throwing your calls forward,
Yeah,
or if
back.
you were throwing your calls backwards. I even know some guys that are using the back tubes that they'll aim it down and call into the ground to diffuse it some.
Yeah.
I mean, and it could be his level of aggression, or how intense he was right off the bat with the call and right, and not kind of
was
playing
he
up to the
bugling or was he
scenario.
cow calling?
Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
many variables in that. I would love
And-
to have more detail to kind of understand it and walk through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Guy, you hit it right off the start. You said, what time of year was it? And I'm thinking it's like the first couple days of bow season. That's what I'm thinking. So, and that would lead to pretty silent elk anyhow, right? So it's kind of a catch-22. You're fighting it a little bit because the elk aren't talking and you're trying to make them do something. Yep.
I totally liked your strategy, bud, man. I like the idea that you got out there. I like the idea that you found sign. I like the
Yep.
idea that you put. Now, I don't know what kind of scenario you did. That's another thing. So we're missing a lot of
Yeah,
information
there's a
here.
lot.
If it was a scenario that, you started cow calling, maybe you were doing some raking in there, and then maybe you started doing something that caused that bull, if you started sounding like a bull that he didn't want to get involved in, that kept that bull off right there. So, what I would tell you too is, depending on what you're doing, we actually can use like a retreating cow, like a cow pickle, sometimes we call it. So if you guys were actually calling together as a team and you were right close, that one of the callers actually starts heading away, to the downwind side, because that's the one side you're not going to have to worry about, and see if you can actually pull animals with you. Because sometimes those animals, especially if you were giving bull sounds, they're not sure, they're listening, they're staying out there, and then as you start to retreat, you know, they'll kind of follow along in the wake, hoping that they can get a scent check, and you know, so that's just that's just an idea that you could use there as well.
And what Joe's saying there is leave the shooter up there while the one guy retreats.
Right.
And then don't say any, once you're the shooter, don't say anything. Just be the shooter, period.
Yeah. Shooter.
Kevin, if you ride back in and give us the scenario, the full scenario, you know, paint a bigger picture for us.
Yeah.
We could hit that again. I would love to, right? Because there's so much that can come out of that. But then, you know, if you don't do that, but as you're thinking about it, look for the commonalities in those situations where it was, what did we do? What was the response, right? And look for the commonality. And maybe you didn't realize you were making the same mistake, but chances are that you know, has something to do with it too. So
and the boys can tell you from coming up to hunt with me in Alberta, that's my style right there. You go into an area, call for 45 minutes to an hour, hour and a half, bump ahead another 150, 200, and then do it all over again. So I like your strategy. That's kind of what I do when I'm doing a lot of solo stuff.
But if we could know the time of year, if we could know time of day, if we could know what kind of scenario you were putting on, what direction you were calling, if you guys were calling apart from each other, if the wind was a factor, if you actually set up, what your setup looked like, what the terrain, you can hear all these variables, right? So that's why when people give us scenarios, you got to remember that we actually see that scenario and connect it with where we are, because that's our reality. So, you know, we can already think that it's either, you know, low pine or it's scrub oak or something like that. So we want to know what it actually looked like for you. And those types of things will help us talk about that as well. All right.
Okay. Next we got Terry Steeler out of Michigan. First, thank you all for all your input you put out there. I hear you talk about being aggressive and closing the distance once you get a response. But it seems that every time I close, I lose direction of where I got my last response, and I'm worried about going in the wrong direction and ending up in the wrong spot. Or I have to just stand and wait till I hear him again, and by that time, the bull is further away. Do you guys have any tips to help me with that?
That is such a good question, man.
That's a good one. That is really good.
Because that's something that everybody, so many people go through when they get a response, right? You know, because I can't tell you how many times, Gil, how many times have we been going, man? We had a bull and we're moving. All of a sudden it's like, okay, we got to stop and get a direction on where he's at now, right? So we're either now having to throw out another location, trying to get him to sound off so that we can get our direction right, or you just having to wait until he sounds off again, like the guy's saying, man. But I've started using some different tools. I'll tell you some of the things that I do, right? As soon as I hear a bull sound off, I always keep a compass in my pocket, just one of them small turnable compasses, small plastic one. As soon as that bull sounds off, I bring it out and I get a bearing on the direction. Okay. I'll also pull out my Onyx, and if I think that, and I'll turn my Onyx in the direction where that bull is to take a look, because you have tools on there that'll let you turn and point in a direction.
Yep.
And from what I hear, I will kind of get an idea how far he is, and I can actually look at that and kind of get an idea where he's at on my Onyx as I'm going to make an approach. And I can actually put something down on that as well.
Actually, Joe, there's a tool on X just to pinpoint the distance where you hear the last sound, and then you can measure it.
Whoa. Yes, Manano's 110% right. But Joe said it, and Manano, I thought was about to say it. Time in the field, nuances in that call in terms of high, mids, and your lows are going to determine how far that bull is off and then what direction. The topography is going to matter, right? So I don't think there's any replacing those blown situations, unfortunately, especially if he's not responding and learning what that bull sounds like at distance. That is that is a huge challenge to a lot of guys.
I always try to keep my to to go like this when I hear something. That way I can pinpoint better. You don't get confused.
Ken, you're one of the best I've ever
Yeah.
seen doing it.
So
Yeah.
Manano, how did you start to judge the distance of a call when you heard it? How did that
It's-
click for you?
Man, it's hard to describe it, but
Followed
it all
me.
depends of the how intense was the sound. So I can I don't know, man. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm 100% sure that the sound is coming this way. If I'm going like with my hands in my ears, I can pinpoint better the sound. But I don't know how to explain how I judge
Well,
the distance.
I think it's a
So,
little bit of experience,
Yeah, and that's
Yes,
what
I mean,
happened. I
it's-
mean, from the first time that he ever started hunting with me, because of my ears, I would ask them how far. So they were having to judge a little bit at that time. And
Yeah.
then
Right.
you start to learn after you make a judgment, you're like, 200, 300 that way. And then you go out in 150 and you bump, and it's like, oh, that's not a 200, 300. That's a 150,
yeah,
right?
I guess
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
like it's an error in yeah.
I can tell you this, depend like Guy said, depending on the weather and everything else, wind blowing like crazy. If the weather's windy and stuff like that, and they sound like they're right on top of you, they're really close.
Well, if the wind's blowing away and you can hear
Right,
it,
it can
you're
sound way
closer.
further away, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And also if you're in a real high barometric pressure situation on a high pressure day, you're not going to hear them as well as you would when that sound
gonna be on
carries on
top
a lower
of you,
barometric
right.
pressure.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean, if you're getting that low end, if you're hearing a lot of low end, if you're hearing a lot of air,
Yes.
you're
Close.
in the red zone.
Yeah.
No, and,
Yeah, yeah.
and
You're close.
try to hear as well. Try to hear them walking. If you hear them walking, they're within 50.
80
I would say 50 to 80 yards.
Yeah.
They make noise, a lot of noise going through the woods.
Yeah.
So I can hear them walking, literally. So yeah, I would say you have to
Well,
practice. And
I want to
not
be
turn
real
up.
honest with everybody. Manano's got ears. I mean, he can hear a mouse piss on cotton from 1,000 yards. So it's crazy how good his ears are, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's an acquired thing. I think Manano spent a lot of times in the woods, not just hunting, elk, but pigs and hogs and deer and everything else that he hunted when he was a kid. And you get keyed in on those subtle nuances.
When you live
of the
around
pattern.
jaguars, bro, you learn
Yeah.
ears.
You know what
Yeah.
a jaguar sounds like.
And you
so.
have to run to save your dogs if you're hunting jaguars. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
want to make sure I'm clear on that hint is that, like I said, if you get a direction, because what's going to happen as you start approach, because of lay of land, rocks, trees, boulders, you're going to start going around things, and you turn your body and you turn, and it's real easy to lose the direction that you
I
actually.
mark a tree within 50 yards, and I mark the tree and start marching. Then make straight lines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
but after
and
that,
I always try to do, if I have, for example, if I have the sun on my back, I go to
the shadow,
the shadow.
right?
So it's pointing this
Great.
direction. I try to follow.
Yep. And that's one of the tools and I think I showed you guys that when we were in the woods, that you can look at the ground and you can
Yeah.
see what direction and how you're going through and where that animal is according
you
to how
keep
those
an angle.
shadows are. Yeah. And you just take that angle according to those shadows. And the other thing I like to do is count my steps. Like if I think he's 200 yards away, I'll start counting my steps as I'm moving forward. Just to
I love the new tools though, Joe, that we have with Onyx where we can depict that. Oh,
Yeah.
I think he's 250 out. We draw the line, boom, hit the spot, and
Onyx
start our march.
it's a game changer, bro.
It really is.
put a
It
waypoint where you
changed-
think he's at. You say, go to that waypoint, no matter where you're at, it's going to take you to it. Right. So
The other part of his question is really interesting, and it's one that we've all had when we get a bull to sound off, and then we close the distance, and now he's even further. So the whole time that bull was headed to a destination, right?
Right.
90% of the time he may have some cows, or he's headed to his bed, and when that happens, man, good luck catching him, you know, especially if he's going up. So, you know, you got to know that too. Is he going up to a destination? You know, what's your wind? You know, what time of day it is? What's the thermals going to be doing? If those thermals are rising and he's above you, it'd be real hard to get on his level without blowing him up, you know. So you got to really make those decisions. And bulls that are moving away from you, you know, it's been my experience that 1 out of 10 you might be able to stop.
Stop and not turn around.
Right,
You may stop him. You ain't turning that bad boy around.
So there's some things that you can do to actually slow his cows down.
Yep.
And while you're hauling butt and not worrying about that bull, understand that if you hear a bull that is at a different distance as you're moving, he's got cows up ahead of him.
Yeah.
He's on the back end of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't so much worry about that as getting off on a parallel as much and just getting up. And if that means that, let's say that you're in just a little bit slight drainage and there's a ridge top over here on your left-hand side and they're on the right, man, get over to that ridge where it's going to be easier to move. It's going to get you up there to the top sooner, find the path of least resistance because everything gets smaller at the top, and just race them boogers going up the mountain. Because you also now, if you get in that position a little bit higher, as those thermals are doing and you're on the downwind side, you're going to be where you don't have to worry about your scent getting to them, and you're going to be able to hear them a little easier unless they drop off onto another side in a drainage, and then you just work that. But if you're going to get where they are during their midday, you have to move, and you can't worry about staying behind that bull because that bull is just going to keep moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you and I did it, Joe. I mean,
yeah,
we actually got. I can't believe it, but Big O and Joe was going to get there regardless. But I can't believe we got it done. We had to cross about 400 yards of field in a trenasse down in the bottom of this trenasse, so the elk wouldn't see us. We get all the way across. The elk are actually moving up to the right side of this ridge, and we take the downwind side and hook around them. And we actually beat the bull to the top and called his cows off of that bull. And that's what pulled the bull to us. But we were probably, 200 yards from him when we got around the top of him. And I would have never thought we beat him. Actually, we didn't. He came back down to us because we called his cows off of him. And that was crazy to watch that happen. And us get parallel side of him, and he actually got just above us, but we were on that downwind side, and Joe kept calling towards his cows and made it sound like there was another bull in there, and those cows pulled towards us, and he was not having it, man. He didn't say two peeps really until he came in there on us and just kind of big grunted like that, and when he was coming in, and I needed about 3 feet, and we killed the biggest bull I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You know,
and the way I did that with the bull with the herd that I followed that I killed. I don't know, it was 20, 21, 20.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was
Dogging him.
bugling as I was going and had nothing to do with the bull. All I was trying to do is let those cows know that there was a bigger bull in the area and try to get their interest, slow them down a little bit, and just throw some little chirps out as I was going too, so that they knew the other cows that were in that group there, and just hopefully slow them down so I could get a move on them. And it happened to work that time.
That's the year you had Luis with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
He I think he videoed most of that.
Yeah, it was
pretty cool.
Good time, man.
Hey, Gil, what the hell's a trenasse, bro?
Trenasse is like a little, it's not a creek. It could be, but it's mostly a dry creek. But it's like a little crevice in the earth, or a creek channel. And in the coonasses that are my buddies from the east over there in Louisiana, they call them trenasses. And my late friend Tony Cosenza, God rest his soul, he used to use that term all the time, and he'd say, "We found them fish in a little trenasse coming off that creek channel over there," and it just stuck with me, and so we used it when we were deer hunting or elk hunting. And a trenasse is just a drainage, a small, thin drainage,
kind of like a coulee.
Yeah, like a coulee. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
like a coolie.
I can't. I was trying to look it up because I'm like, man, he says this shit all the time, and I don't know what Trinaus is. I got Celtic mythology and all kind of crap come up.
No, that's straight red bone out of Louisiana, baby.
All right.
Siri, what is a Trinaus? Hey, brother, I'm red bone. I ain't never heard of a Trinaus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, here it is.
Hey, guys,
a man-made cut used to navigate the marsh to get to a favorite fishing or hunting spot. So we ain't never seen a Trinaus in the mountains, just for the record. The honey hole to many sportsmen of South Louisiana.
Yes, sir.
And we got more geography out of Gil in learning the definition of Trinaus.
That's
about
right.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, move us on, man.
Oh, guys. Well, you know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout out. If you're new to our show, there's just a shout out to the followers at a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
Hey, and look, man, the first two places, it was so cool. This has happened once before.
Yep.
Came from our brothers and sisters up north, man. So I think it's really fitting, Travis, that you start us out with this, man.
Okay, so this top listening city coming from our brothers and sisters north of the border up in
That
Canada.
doesn't apply to Travis.
Yeah.
Not in
On the same
Colorado.
side of the border.
Yeah. On my side. Anyways, it's named after a Roman Catholic missionary in 1867. It was an important, prosperous agricultural stopping point between Edmonton and Calgary. And then everything changed when oil was discovered in 1947, changing Alberta from an agricultural province to an urban economy dominated by the oil and gas industry. This area, also known as the heart of Canada's economic engine, Leduc, Alberta.
Leduc, Alberta.
Leduc.
So,
Beautiful
Sounds-
place, man.
sounds
The
French.
agriculture there is such a beautiful place there in Alberta.
Yeah.
man.
oh, in Alberta, it's like one of the richest provinces in Canada, but it has
Black-
the
It
worst
is.
black
roads
gold,
of the other province.
Oh, yeah. Our back roads are better than our highways.
Go figure.
Yeah. It's brutal.
Up next, Beto. Okay. This Canadian city was originally named Westminster Junction, but later changed to honor the native tribe that originally lived there. The new native name translates to Red Fish of the River. The city is located on the nature's doorstep with endless opportunities for outdoors adventures, like hiking, fishing, hunting, biking, snowing, and much, much more. This is going for Coquitlam, British Columbia. Columbia,
Coquitlam.
Quit.
Yep.
Canada.
BC.
Coquitlam, did I get it
Your
right?
brothers to the east, huh?
To the west. Yeah.
Oh, to
west.
the west. Gotcha.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
the west.
Yeah. Beautiful there. Absolutely beautiful.
Oh, first of all, I just want to say thank you to all of those in Canada that have been listening and been supporting
Yes.
us. And if you get a chance, man, since you're up there on that side, if you guys hear about our grinder and our sugar, that man right there, Travis O'Shea,
Builds
makes
it.
those. Wapiti River Outdoors calls are some of the best calls that there are. That's why that we work with Travis O'Shea. So you've got a great place right there to be able to get some calls. Look at that, man. He's giving, yeah,
There we go, baby.
absolutely. So, yeah, but thank you guys, man. Honestly,
He's in the dungeon right now where it's the magic happens too.
This is
Baby.
where it happens. Yeah.
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 For
Yeah.
sure.
yeah,
Hey,
it's so
Gil, only you and Joe have been here too.
And you know what's
That's true,
funny, dude, is I kept telling him is like I see this camera view of the dungeon like this, man, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, this looks like this great, man cave and everything. And you get down
Yeah.
in there, man, and this dude's putting work in down there.
It's a dungeon.
Definitely. There's lots of work going on down
lot
there.
of
Yeah.
For sure.
on there, man.
Well, this next town, originally a fur trading post, is located on the Delta, where the Uncompahgre River flows into the Gunnison River. It's part of the Colorado Western Slope, a scenic must-stop for outdoor enthusiasts in the Black Canyon of Gunnison National Park, and the 2,900-foot gorge carved out by the Snake and Gunnison River in Delta, Colorado.
Delta, Colorado in the house.
Colorado.
So Joe actually tried to enunciate the word for you, and you still did it pretty bad. So Manano give you a little guff.
Is it uncompadre?
Yeah.
Sounds like compadre.
Uncompadre.
Compadre.
Sounds like compadre.
Uncompadre.
Yeah.
Compadre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, this northmost Ohio village has a series of waterfalls in the center of town at historic old buildings, including one of the oldest community theaters in the United States. And this village is a great destination. It's also home to Tim Conway of the McHale's Navy fame. Hold on, bro.
Yeah, Cal Burnett.
Hold on.
What?
McHale's Navy fame? How old do you think your demographic is that's listening to this? Because people are going to be like, well, McHale's Navy.
Okay, so bro, you got to remember that Leroy Chavis
Yeah.
writes things out, man. So,
Tim Conway.
You always assign the
Tim
hard
Conway of
one.
McHale's Navy fame and home to Pot Pie, the comic strip and cartoonist Bella Bill Zaholi, Chagrin Falls, Ohio.
Grand Falls, Ohio.
Falls, Ohio.
Yeah.
So I got Popeye.
I
know.
recognize Popeye.
Who the heck is Bill Zaholi?
He's the
Bill Zaholi
cartoonist
is the one
made
that makes the Popeye comic.
Okay, there you go. See, I'm just saying, man.
Yeah.
And man, if you guys
McHale's
have
Navy
not
was
seen
funny.
McHale's Navy, you have
Good-
just a
good show.
classic, man.
Tim
Absolutely.
Conway
Travis,
was a
Manano.
Conway was a funny dude.
Nope.
Any
Y'all ever
idea
saw
on the
Carol
McHale's
Burnett?
Navy?
I'm too young, bro.
So has
Look it up.
have any of you guys heard the name Carol Burnett?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Tim Conway was one of the mainstays of the Carol Burnett show and incredible comedian.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Hilarious.
Wasn't he part of that guy that did like that Dorf on golf? The little guy that was like the little
Yes.
did the little movements? Yeah.
Yeah, he
That's what I
barely
thought.
shuffled his feet and everything, man. He was
Yeah.
wild, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild
Very
guy.
incredible comedy that those people did, man. So
Dude.
Yeah.
man, hey, do it. Come on, man. Where are you, guy?
Let's go, guy.
What's
You
up
falling
next,
down
guy?
on me here, man.
I was looking at McHale's Navy, bro.
We got him off this
Get up.
game, Joe. Got him off this
Oh boy.
McHale's
funny.
Navy. Main content.
game. I
Love it,
dude.
man.
Time to wrap up the 2023 season, fellas.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't think you guys are going to hear us again until after New Year's. You might hear some other episodes we've got on the docket, but us being together, you won't hear us until after New Year's. So, what we want to do, man, is we're going to close out on this. We're going to drill down for you guys on specific areas that we saw some things, some failure points, or some misinformation or mishaps in these areas in calling, strategies, and gear. So that's going to be the focus areas that we're going to do. And calling is going to be first up. And the reason it's going to be first up is I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you that calling should be your top priority of what to work and to get down. And the reason I tell you that is because no matter what I say, it's kind of like basketball players, right? If I work on my basketball players' defense, I never have to worry about their three-point shooting because anytime they get a ball, they go out and they shoot three-point shots, right? But they don't go out and work on defensive stance, on defensive move, on footwork, and so you have to work on that. And because it's so critical to winning. Now, if I tell you your number one priority is learning how to call elk, I'm not worried about your shooting, right? Because I know that that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to be doing that. I don't have to worry about, a lot of other parts to it. I mean, enough of you guys that have taken a look at those mountains and have heard enough, you know you're going to have to be in physical condition. So, there's certain things that are there, right? But if you do not work on your calling, then you are so limiting yourself. So I'm just throwing that out there first. And look, when we trained our adventure hunters this year,
it wasn't enough.
I every time said, man, if you are not working your calling, you are killing yourselves over and over again. And still, you know, once they got there, the one aspect of everything that they were doing that had to be worked on the most was what, y'all? Calling.
Yeah. Simple. Yeah. And it's the simple little stuff like cow sounds and calf sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like people want to practice the bugles and all that stuff, but you have to nail that first cow mew perfection, or you're gonna scare everything away and you won't have a chance. So yeah, really work on
most of the guys that came in camp,
simple.
they could blow the bugle okay, right? I mean, they could make, like, you know, a couple of our hunters could really get, I mean, they could really sound like a big gnarly bull, right? But man, would you know, get them to slow down and try to do a cow or a calf call? It was it literally took me, Guy, RC, and Chav 2 hours to sit down with them and just get them to where they could make a sound that sounded similar to a calf. And they were all like, oh yeah, we can make a calf sound or a cow sound.
And they were doing a lot of right things, but they were doing a lot of wrong manipulations with their mouth and different things like that. But you know, look, we've talked about that just in recent episodes. We've actually talked about that. So what I want to do is I want to point out the things that I saw that even if you had your calling down, right? Because a lot of people can do a basic cow call and they can do a basic bugle, right?
Yeah.
What I saw was a huge, especially when, you know, you're in there in a part of the season when those elk are silent, and even in other parts of the season when you expect them not to be silent, and they are, that where a lot of guys struggled was in scenarios, man. So when we talk about a scenario, for any of you guys that are just listening right now, a scenario is basically doing a setup where you are putting particular calls. You take a palette of different types of calls, and with that palette, you paint a picture of elk doing elk things, whether it's, you know, a cow with a calf, whether it's a type of breeding sequence where a bull has some cows there, and you hearing that kind of things going on right there, or whether, sir.
No, let me interrupt you there, but because for first-time listeners, how would you use the among all those palettes of scenarios?
Right.
How do you choose a specific scenario without seeing any sign, without hearing any noise, without making, you know, like any specific plan? You go to the woods. Which one do you pick?
So
right out of bed in the morning.
You have actually hit on a big part of it, because when I talk about the scenarios, you know, there's a few things. Like when people do scenarios, like we heard earlier, they expect results from that scenario.
Because they
just do it whenever and wherever, like what you're talking about, Manano. Like, what scenario do you do? Where do you do it? How do you do it? Right? Just coming out in the morning. Well, when you're going out there, there's a reason to put on a scenario. You shouldn't just go out there and say, "Oh, we're at the edge of a meadow. Let's put on a scenario." That's probably the worst place you can do it, because, you know, even if you did pull a bull out, you're going to pull a bull into an area where you're not going to have an opportunity at that animal, right? He's going to stop up to that park, look for where that other elk is, expect you to come to him. But first thing in the morning when you're doing it, you got to remember time of year, right? Because different things are happening behaviorally with these elk. And early season, when you have that, you've got bulls that are still together in bachelor groups. You got bulls trying to you know, measure the pecking order between other bulls. You have bulls small bulls especially, that are out trying to gather up cows. And you have big bulls that are trying to stay in the wings of young bulls that have gathered up cows. So when anytime you have that in that type of year, the type of scenario that you want to put on is something that matches what's going on in that time of year. Now,
or sign that you've seen.
Joe,
Yeah.
can I throw something in real quick?
yeah,
I in my opinion, you should look at all of your approaches in terms of calling as a scenario as you're moving through, right? You're painting that picture anytime. I mean, just as simple as lost calf.
if you're
right?
if you're cow chumming or doing a lost calf.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm lost calf, right, that leads into what? Lost calf, maybe cow says, hey, mama's over
Responding
here, back and
here.
forth, right? So if you
Bulls respond to it too.
envision the picture that you want to paint and you start, again at that lost calf, and you just continue to paint that picture as you move through. So I think you should be looking at it as this is the scenario, right? No matter what call we're throwing out at any point. Not just that standard, I'm going to set up and put on a scenario deal.
Well, and I think a lot of us early in the morning when we get to the destination where we want to start hunting, or, we've gotten off our transportation and we're walked out in the woods a little ways, and we, start seeing a little bit of sign. It may even be in that gray light condition where we throw a couple of soft cow calls out, right? And do we get a response, right? Or we don't get a response, we do a little location bugle, and do we get a response? And in Trav's case, they night bugle to get a response. So they know exactly where and look, that bull don't go nowhere. He stays down in there and pretty close to where they found the night bugle. They dive right off in him in the morning, and boom. I mean, I've never seen it work so well as it did in Canada. And of course, I've never done it before, but those guys go out at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and they get a bugle, and man, they're there the next morning, and you go back and sleep for 3 or 4 hours, get up and get right back on him, and it works because their elk are a lot more silent. I think a lot of it has to do with the predation that's around them. You got grizzly bears, black bears, and now wolves that are all over them. And the more talking they do, the more detrimental it is, because the other predators know where they're at. And I think elk are creatures of their habitat, man.
And look at Gil.
Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off there.
No.
Look at the first 3 mornings you guys went in after you and Dylan went out and you night bugled and found that bull. You guys hunted that same bull for three mornings in a row, and you threw, same exact area, like within 100 yards, and you threw 3 different tactics at him each day.
Yep. Got him to respond every time.
Yeah.
And we should have killed him. The easiest day to kill him was the first day, right?
Always.
Had him. And he knew the jig was up. Something was going different. And then the wolves moved in on us, and I think that really, sent him moving. But at the end of the day, we put a lot of scent in there too. But I mean, they're not stupid. Those creatures are not stupid.
But to answer your question, Manano, when first thing in the morning, when I'm moving through, I'm sounding like either a calf or a cow as I'm moving. I want to sound like a small group. You're on mute, buddy. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Nothing aggressive, yo.
No, right.
I have spent quite a amount of time lately trying to show my little kid Tomas videos of elk hunting. And I would say 95% of the videos, the elk, they bugle, like nothing aggressive, nothing like long, high pitch.
Yeah, that's a location. When they're doing a long, high pitch like that, they're just saying,
where are you?
They're just trying to locate other animals there, right?
Here I am.
And that's one of the things that we're doing as well when we're going out. And, we cast call. So when we're moving, we're always trying to sound like, when I'm going through, I'm always a lover before I'm a fighter. I'm always throwing out call or calf calls when I'm doing it. You have to be careful when you're doing that, man, because animals, they, just like a good D-back, man, they peg where you're at and they come in and they start to cut you off. So you got to
they're really good at it.
Yep, absolutely. And then if I do stop to call and get value out of my call, and what I'm talking about with that is to get value, I want to either cast it across a bowl, put it into a small type of canyon, maybe bounce it off of a far wall, places where my sound is going to carry so I get the most value for that. And again, it's still non-aggressive. I'm just casting that out. So I start with my just general cow call with my mouth, one through my tube. And early season, that can also sound like a bull mew. Guys, bulls mew just like cows mew, right? And then I can throw out a location bugle. Now, just because I don't get a sound or a response doesn't mean that there wasn't a response or other elk didn't hear that and start moving towards me. So as I continue moving, doing the calls that I do, I'm working animals. I'm actually doing a scenario. I am a moving group of elk. That is a scenario. I'm painting that picture, right? So, but what I saw is that most people, when we tell them to do a scenario, they just don't know what a scenario is. They don't know when, where, and why, what you were asking, Manano. They don't know, and a big part of it is they don't know how to set up, and then they don't know how to commit to the scenario. And that's a huge one. And I just went through a lot of things that they have trouble with. But to know what a scenario is, figure out the things that are going to attract other elk to you, that are going to bring them to you. A breeding sequence is an incredible attractant.
I was going to add to that, Joe. In that scenario, it has to make sense in terms of elk language, right?
Sure.
If you throw out a locate bugle and then immediately go into chuckles and introduce a cow mewing, and there's so many things that can go wrong in it. So if you're not going through their dialect, say, correctly, you could actually blow that up because something don't sound right to them. They're out of there, right? Something's funky when the talk isn't the talk that they're used to. So really watch those scenarios and understand what you're saying, what you're asking for, what you're responding or answering with, and then how you move forward from all that.
And I'll tell you, man, one of those non-aggressive calls that I use, and I don't use it at the end of a location bugle, is a chuckle. I'll just do a light chuckle, and that's a great early season call. Just that chuckle by itself, because it's non-aggressive, it's inviting, it lets them know where they are. It's a low vocalization. So that's another one that we use out there. But again,
it's been a game changer for us.
But we're talking about individual calls when we do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Scenario, we're putting things together, different elk sounds, to make other elk think, oh, there's a party over there, or there's a
rut fest
cows over there, or there's a herd bull with some cows. You want to paint those pictures to pull them to you. Elk want to be where other elk are, right?
That's what I find with the scenarios. As soon as we get out of your rig and you're walking into where you're going hunting, you're watching the trails, you're watching the mud and all the mud puddles. If you're seeing all cow and calf tracks, obviously, hey, you should probably do like a cow party or something like that. Try to call those other cows over because the bulls are going to follow them. If you're only seeing bull tracks and you got 2 or 3 bulls walking together, which we saw a lot in the early season, that's a whole different scenario that you gotta, you'd probably go in and maybe do an advertising sequence, try to call some of those bulls over. They're gonna think you got cows. So you got to kind of think of what tracks you're seeing, and that'll lead you into what scenario you need to go into. So, and then like Joe said earlier, the breeding sequence, you can never go wrong with that. And it doesn't matter if it's end of August, middle of September, or into October, they're breeding
the
through.
funnest sequence you could put on.
The
breeding sequence. Oh, man, so much fun to do. So much fun.
And it's work.
Yeah.
And
that's elk calling.
Yeah,
you just have to know the rules of the game when it's something like that. So when you're hearing multiple bulls bugling in one area, multiple bulls mean that there's a hot cow. That's the only reason there's multiple bulls in there, because they're smelling a pheromone and they're all trying to get lined up for what's going on there, right? They all want to be a part of that. So if you just learn the different rules that are happening, what a cow, the sounds that she's making, when would you use a calf would you use that as you're approaching a bull with a herd rather than a mature cow sound, so that you don't get a cow that blows you out? Are you going to try to call that, if it is a herd bull and he's real difficult to pull away from his cows, what can you use to pull the cows to you instead of trying to deal with that bull? So you do a scenario to deal with cows, right? So
Yeah.
this,
Joe, I don't
or
know
you-
how to
yeah, I
do
mean-
that. I don't know how to feel like a cow, man. I'm a strong man.
Yeah, I don't know much either, but I do know how to
Pheromones
make
and
those sounds.
Rainbows and stuff. No, no, Joe.
I do know how to make those sounds, and Joe's 100% right. I was on a rifle hunt recently, and I needed to pull cows to me. And knowing what I know about their maternal instincts, I actually got the lead cow to come over 700 yards to me, and she brought the whole herd with her just by understanding what a lost calf, insistent lost calf, sounds like. And when she heard that, it was like a herd stampede coming down the mountain. Come find that lost calf that's abandoned. And my hunter, I needed him to go another 100 yards for us to harvest this big bull, but he got hung up by a fence line. And our hunter, he was very patient, man, but he got to see something he's never seen before.
How long did it take them to come?
not long, man. They ran
seconds.
Yeah.
35 seconds to cover
Yeah.
that, 50 seconds to
Because
cover
it's
that.
open already.
700
Now, if it
yards,
was
yeah.
trees where they had to worry about predators or something, but it's open
Yeah.
where they could see, so man, they're just
Oh yeah.
And I even had a decoy on the other side of the fence line about 150 yards. Maybe I should have put it a little further, but we were running out of light and running out of time. And I did what I did. And I even text Joe. I'm like, Joe, I got nothing to lose. And I was in such a small piece of cover. I said, look, as soon as I say anything, they're going to know that something's there, right?
Yeah.
And there is nothing around me other than this small piece of cover. So for me, sounding like a bull was never going to, there was multiple bulls. There were probably 6 or 7 bulls in that herd. And that was not going to be the ticket. What I wanted was to bring the bulls to me for sure. And I knew if I brought the cows to me, they were going to be in tow, And once I hit that lost calf, I mean, the first sound I made with the lost calf call, our hunter picked he looked up, he goes, oh my God, they're looking. I said, all right, keep on them,
Do it.
Yeah, and I'm and I mean, dude, he goes, they're running. I said, oh, that's so cool, dude. It was literally, I wish I'd have had a videographer with me, because it was so cool, man. I was blowing the sugar too, man. So it was loud and obnoxious and sounded so good. But the whole herd came over 700 yards,
so
Unbelievable.
Manano. Another thing I want to throw out there, man, is when you're going to do a scenario, you want to actually think about the instincts of those animals that you're trying to deal with. Are you trying to pull them because of their maternal instinct, because of their being protective? Bulls are being protective. Is it because of their breeding instincts? Is it because of their curiosity? Is it because that they're wanting to buddy, because of the pecking order they're trying to set up? So you're trying to actually do something that is going to deal
Attract
with,
them.
that's going to actually bring them, because they are, you're dealing with those instincts that drives them to come to you, right? So
And I think some bulls are like people, Joe. I think some of them are very
Really
non-confrontational, and they don't want that. They would rather move off with another bull and go find some other cows where they don't have to hassle getting their tail whipped. I just think some of them are like that.
But
We've seen it before.
let me ask you a question, guys, because this season I remember Mr. Ed. He talks about we were speaking Spanish, and the elk they were speaking English. So he mentioned something about the language. You have to speak the language. They understand their language. I mean, he was more specific about it, but you have to mimic their sound. He was talking about for example, the Canadian accent and then the Southern accent. They understand that. you have to be like
The
100%
dialect.
accurate.
And I think a lot of it is not so much like attaching words to it; it's more attaching the emotions to it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is it just a general talking type sound? Is it a pleading type sound? Is it a requesting or a demanding sound? Is it an angry sound? All of these types of emotions are dealt with how you're trying to deal with either,
Sequence.
maternal instinct, right?
Yeah.
If I'm doing a
Yeah.
lost calf, if I just did a calf chirp, well, they know that there's a calf over there. But if I'm doing a lost calf,
Yeah.
that's just like if you were at the mall with your wife and you heard a baby talking over there. It's like, oh, how cute, it's a baby. But if you heard a baby screaming, every mother in the place is going over there. Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, in
Who's
my
pinching that
case, I go like Charlie Brown mode, like turn it off. Like, well, like
Charlie Brown mode.
I got two little kids, they cry all day long. So
With that said, guys, what I see a lot of times is that a lot of guys, when they're doing that, they're not matching their strategies
Right.
to the behaviors for that time of the year, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of,
Yeah.
I think Guy talked about this, like on one of the other ones, you talked about, well, you did a cow call and you got a bull that came in that responded to that, right? And he's kind of just, given that, okay, I'm over here type thing. And he's responding to the cow. And then all of a sudden, what do a lot of guys do as soon as they get the response? Yeah, they scream at it, right?
For what?
Yeah.
And that bull's
just
not there yet.
Scared the hell out
right?
of everybody.
And quite honestly, sometimes you're not going to get it right? You got to dip your toe in the water, and you can always regroup, re-strategize on the fly, right? You have to dip your toe in the water, so don't go out so scared that you don't want to make a peep. I didn't make any sounds, or I don't have any sign, I don't want to make sounds. You got to dip your toe in the water.
Yeah.
But
I think I overcall. I really do at times. I get so in love with the call.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I think we just over. When I listened and I watched that herd of elk, very rarely did they go 5 or 6 minutes without having some vocalization, right? But it was a break in that vocalization. And I'm talking about 35 head of elk. There was not a lot of talking going on, and about every 5 minutes somebody would go, "Hey, where?"
Right, they can see each other. What's the dynamic?
Yeah.
What's the body language that they're reading that we don't?
Right.
Excuse me, that we don't have a part in, right?
Joe's right.
So-
they could see each other. They weren't in the trees.
Any herd
you know?
animal, right?
Yeah.
Cattle and horses and whatnot, they communicate the same way.
Sure.
Yeah, as long as there's a visual. So remember, it's visual first, it's auditory second, and and then its smell is last, right? That's
emotion,
how we
man.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us miss the mark with the emotion part. Right?
Yeah.
We get mundane and sound like one cow.
Then you ain't having fun with it. Right? If you're not putting emotion into it, in my opinion,
No.
you ain't out there having fun.
scenarios, man. That's if you and look, I hardly ever do this, but if you want to learn about scenarios, you can go to our base camp. Take our base camp course. We talk about all the different palettes, all the different calls, all the different types of sequences, and how to put them together, right? So that's just a way to do that. www.elkbros.com. Man. Go check it out because it's going to help you, man, once you understand what a scenario is. And we talk about different times of year. We talk about different modes of the animal because when you get a bull, you got to understand what mode that bull's in. When we got there to Canada, man, it was just pretty much, that was it, right?
Yeah. You have to, no matter what scenario you're doing, you got to start slow and work your way into it. If you start at the very top, you have nowhere to go. But if you work into it, you feel his emotion and then let it fly from there. And then that's the basis of it.
If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our base camp elk hunting training camp. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead. the next step, the next thought process, the next success. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding. And I'll even tell you this, like, just to give you an idea. So let's say that I'm doing like a little cow party type scenario, just a group of cows, right? And I get a bull that responds, and all of a sudden that bull starts calling me, trying to demand for me to come to him. It's a shorter type bugle where he's saying, come over here. And if I don't do that, then he's kind of like, well, why isn't that happening, right? Sometimes I might have to give him a reason. I might have to introduce a bull. But one thing I don't want to do is go ahead and introduce this big old bugle to do that is going to tell him, oh, he told me stay away and I'm doing that. I don't want my butt kicked. I can do it with sounds that aren't going to identify my size. I can use raking. I can use panting. I can use little moaning inside there, right? These are even a chuckle, it does not let them know how big I am, right? Or recognize it. So,
Joe, when you called that bull in for me a few years back, I think it was 2020 or 2019, you called that bull from over a half a mile. And that bull, we never did anything other than lost cow call and a few calf and cow sounds. And it was you and I on the tube, and I don't think you ever bugled at that bull one time.
There was actually earlier I did, because I made it sound like a herd moving away, and then we came back with the lost cow call. So we did like a cow pickle type thing.
Exactly. And that bull, actually, we were quitting him. We were fixing to give up and get out of there. And I said, Joe, I hear that bull down there. I said, I can hear him walking or flopping in the mud or something. I said, get after him one more time. And he did one more lost cow call, and that bull erupted. And I said, he's getting closer. And Joe goes, well, maybe we'll stick around and see what happens here.
It's worth it. Yeah.
I mean, called him in on a string. All he had to do was lost cow call at him after that. And, that bull came up, and that's the famous 7-8 minute stand. Yeah, he came up over a barricade, jumped the fence. Yeah, jumped the fence, come out of his wallow, jump the fence, and come up the mountain. What, 400 yards, Joe? 300 yards up that mountain? And came all the way up, and then we had the 8-minute standoff with him frontal, and it was unnerving.
And I want to talk about the standoff. Go ahead, Manan.
Go ahead, Joe. Sorry. Go ahead.
So the standoff that he's talking about and why that occurred, because we had a bull that was responding, coming to us the whole time, but he's down below us. He can't see anything. He's just going to another elk. As soon as he came up that hill, and you should see the video, man, as soon as his head gets up high enough over there to where he can see into that area where he should be seeing another elk, he stops and he scans. He's looking for that bull.
Yeah.
He does not see... I'm sorry, for that cow. He does not see that cow. So what's the next thing that he does? He bugles. You can see all of this on video, right? Yes. And so it's funny. He looks, doesn't see it. He calls, doesn't see it. You see him raising his nose. He went through every sense right in front of us. And then when he didn't, he comes up over closer, but before he comes in, he stops again so that he can scan, man. That was his stop and scan spot that he knew he should be seeing another cow elk.
Yeah, and then he grunted and kind of halfway chuckled, and that's when he was like, man, I ain't seeing really what I want to.
Come on, I'm inviting you.
I'm not really seeing what I want. And he's in our kitchen. I mean, he's 36 yards from us. Yep. And
dead bull already, and he doesn't know it.
Yeah, and as soon as the bull acts like he wants to turn and walk away, Joe screams the bugle and I draw, and I have to step out from that aspen, and we center punch him. And I mean, But again, dude, it was nerve wracking because at any second a gust from the gods ruins that, because he's right there in he's, like I said, 37 yards and he's downhill. Thank God we've got, the thermals on him and stuff like that. But man, it was nerve wracking to have him there staring a hole through us. Because it's not like we're in great cover. We're standing next to aspen trees, right?
Actually, dead aspen trees. They've been
dead
burned.
aspen burned, yeah. So it's not like and I don't resemble no aspen tree. I'm pretty round shape, more like a trunk of a pondo, So
It looked a little burnt, though, bro.
yeah, exactly.
Manano,
So let me ask you this. Sorry, Joe. When you guys were about to give up on that bull, how long was that time frame until that last 7 or 8 minutes before he came up the ridge? Because that's going to tie right into Kevin's question earlier. How long do you wait after you do a call sequence and you don't have nothing coming? This is perfect for that.
Well, the thing is, we had multiple bulls bugling, and they were bugling in distance, and it seemed like they were responding in distance and was going to stay at a distance moving. So we were actually getting ready to start moving further in the direction that we felt that they were going when Gil goes, dude, I think that one's closer. And I was like, So, yeah.
And that's just the experience of hearing them, because Joe didn't hear him. He couldn't hear the the high stuff Joe can hear pretty well. It's that low audible stuff that he was having trouble with. And what I heard more than anything was him kicking logs right down there. And what he was doing, he's wallowing. The bull was solid mud when he came over the ridge, right? And he was worked up, and he'd heard that cow up there pleading for somebody to come up there and give her what she needed. And man, at the end of the day, he wasn't going to be denied. He came over that fence like with the gusto of a hound dog. He didn't even think about stopping and checking up at that fence. Over it he went, and I'm like, this is fixing to happen. This is crazy,
What time of year was that, Joe? Just because you mentioned that to the listeners, right, is understanding that time of year where you're at.
It was probably around the 4th of September, 4th or 5th of September. Early season.
Pretty early.
We had them popping off around us, man. The first 3 days, though, it wasn't like that.
We had a cow that came in heat, and so the multiple bulls were just going nuts in that area, man. So what we did was, since they had a cow in heat, and because there were multiple bulls, we pulled one of those satellites off of there by giving him some lower hanging fruit. We sounded, first of all, like a herd that was moving up the ridge, and then I came back with the lost cow call. And when he heard that cow coming back from that other herd, it was like, hey, I got me a pickup here. So absolutely.
It was textbook, man.
I'm having such a hard time focusing here, man. My wife is cooking banana bread downstairs. Killing up here, man.
And the nose.
Oh my gosh, man.
So Joe, that plays right into how to commit to a scenario. We were committed to that scenario because of the response that we got. Right. And we almost quit the scenario because he quit playing. And until we heard him closer, then, we almost suspended the whole thing and got out of there. We probably spent an hour and go ahead.
Because we were going to move because it seemed like they were going in a different direction.
Yeah. But we probably played with him for over an hour.
Probably, man. Doing that whole sequence that we did, trying to pull them up there. Yeah. That's the thing is, when you've got elk across a fence on the other side in a private or in another unit that you can't go to, your only option, if you have that going, is doing something to pull them. And one of the things that I like to do is not sit there and call at them. What I like to do is create a scenario of a herd bull with a herd of cows, and then have that herd move away from those other elk, taking them away. And then that way, when you do that, you're not going to have them just stay on the other side of the fence and scream and keep their distance. You're going to pull some of those elk that are going to try to come with you in that direction, because hardly any elk hunter out there ever calls and goes in the opposite direction. Hardly ever, right? but elk do it all the time.
Time. Oh
So-
my gosh. It's aggravating.
In the reality, what we're trying to do, if I'm a herd bull, why am I going towards those other ones? I'm not going to bring my cows towards them other ones. I'm going to keep pushing them up the ridge and take them to bed, man. So let's go push. And that's what we did. And then came
Yeah, he gets
back.
to hooking them.
Once we heard that bull kind of coming, then you go back with that lost cow call, making that cow pickle. And when I say cow pickle, guys, it's like in baseball. You know, you think about, you know, when you get a runner that's going on there that's running back and forth and you're throwing the ball trying to get them out, you know, where you're going forward and you're coming back, going forward and coming back. And that's
what me and Joe were doing. You know, his cow sounds a little bit different than I do. So it sounded like 2 or 3 cows, 4 cows going back and forth with one another that were hot, you know, because we'd whine a little bit and then get that lost cow call. And he couldn't
lost cow
stand
call just drove that bull crazy, brought him up, you know,
it.
so
He did.
that was that trick at that time. So that's good on the calling section, you know, because Guy, one of the other areas that we saw a lot of problematic things and failure points with people was in gear area.
All right, I gotta precede the gear area, right? Gear ain't gonna help you kill an elk, right? It can help you do a lot of things. It ain't gonna kill your damn elk. Gear that is recommended
It can
isn't
keep you from killing an elk, though.
yeah. Well, in some instances, it absolutely can.
Yeah.
Right, and we'll get into that a little bit. And then gear that you haven't vetted out for your style of hunting, your area of hunting, time of year of hunting. Maybe it come off of a recommendation and you just pulled the trigger. Sorry. That's a rough one too, right? So, you know, first and foremost, fit and function should be your priority. For you, how does it work? How does it fit? Blah, 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 blah. So that I gotta lead with that stuff there, right? I mean, it's so easy to say, you know, damn good gear, damn good bugle, damn good this, damn good that. And it don't mean it's for everybody, right? Me and Gil had a million conversations in camp, and Gil's like, well, this works for me. And I'm like, yeah, that worked for me too, but that sucks. And he's like, I love it. It's the best, right? Yeah. And that's fine, right? It is a subjective realm when we talk gear. So that is the predecessor to the rest of it.
Yeah, and I think whatever works for you and you're successful with and you have confidence in, man, that's you need to lean on that, right? And then always look to get better. I mean, when Guy recommends something to me, I'm always gonna go look and check it. I mean, he's recommended boots for me and all kinds. I mean, he's a gear guru, you know. So you always want to go do something that's better for you or look to get better. I mean, it's the same thing with arrows and this, that, and the other. I was buying arrows off the shelf and screwing a broadhead on it and killing elk like crazy. Why do I need to go to heavy arrows and all this other stuff? Well, when you dive into it, you start learning that you could get better. And guys like Guy that are gear gurus that really test a lot of gear, you need to put a lot of stock in what you know. I put a lot of stock in what Guy says. I mean, we give each other a lot of hard time, but at the end of the day, the guy's an amazing gear enthusiast, right? So
I waste a lot of money that you don't have to.
yeah, we let him guinea pig it. We let him guinea pig it first, man. But, I mean, he's 100% right. Gear ain't gonna kill your elk, but it sure can keep you. And Joe's right; he sure keep you from it, man.
Yeah,
because you got to be comfortable.
I'll just give you an example. Gaiters are a great piece of gear to have.
Oh, man.
You know,
Crazy
and
good
you
piece of
put
gear.
gaiters are going to help you keep your feet dry, keep the lower legs dry. You know, but you get a pair of gaiters that you're going through low brush and it's as it's doing that. You know, it's going to kill you, man. It's going to kill.
It needs to be the right kind.
Yeah. It's not just the gaiters.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the materials that pants are made out of,
Absolutely.
right? I had a video of one of our hunters, and I was behind him, and every step he took,
Shower curtain.
every step he took, and I got a video because you know you tell people and they look at you like, oh, I didn't hear that. So I took a video of it. I'm like, watch this, and he looks like, oh God. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty loud, man.
Very loud.
You know, if you just remember what it is and what's critical to your success as far as, you know, trying to be as silent as possible, trying to be as scent free as possible. trying to get something that's not going to, that you haven't worked with, that's not going to get in your way on a draw, or it's not going to inhibit your shot on a rifle, or, you're not able to get your cheek on the butt of a rifle the same way because you're wearing a big old face, cover
Yeah.
on there,
I tell you what, Joe,
That's-
me putting a face mask on, it alters my feel of my anchor.
Absolutely,
Right? So
it does.
you gotta put that thing on and shoot with it religiously, man.
Well, I said fit and function,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And function does not mean in the garage, in the living room,
Right.
in the man cave. Honey, how does this look on me? Fit and function in the field means I took it out on rucks. I got on the mountain with it. I went and shot my bow. I shot my rifle with everything on. I mean, yeah, some people, for me, there's a couple times a year where I'll go to the range and I'll look like a daggum fool, right? Because I am fully kitted at the range. The weight in your pack is going to determine your draw. It's going to determine or change your air, possibly change your anchor point. My bino harness, if we're talking rhino and I'm used to, or rifle and I'm used to running a bino harness, when I go to lay down prone, how is that going to affect me? If I got to get on my butt, pull the pack, drop my rifle on my pack and take a shot that way, how is that going to fit me, right? So that's fit and function, not trying it on at Bass Pro or ordering it, off of Amazon or Go Hunt or whatever it is, and thinking that that's going to serve you in the field.
You have to practice the way you play.
Yeah,
Look,
absolutely.
Joe is the number one guy telling you that. I mean, let him know, what happened to you, Joe. We got an awesome decoy from Predator Decoy, and we hadn't practiced with it much.
Broke my own rule, man. I didn't know I was going to use it on a hunt, and ended up in a situation where I had it there, and I was like, dude, this is a perfect place to try this. Bring in 5 bulls in there, got them at 20 yards, go to draw back. And because I hadn't drawn that way and the way things were and the way I drew it, it spooked them first. But then we stopped them, actually got a second opportunity that messed with me on the shot because I had not practiced and knew how my sight window was going to look through on that shot.
Going through it,
Yeah.
And honestly, go ahead, Gil. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, no, I'll never forget. He let the arrow fly, and there was a little aspen right next to the bull and to the left of him, and the bull was actually facing to the left, and boom, he center punches that aspen, and I looked at him, and I'm like, what in the world was?
Well,
and he was as surprised as I was. He's like, what?
You're used to a sight picture looking like this. Now you're going to this. It's slightly offset to the left or the right. So you're compensating on the fly for that. You want to ruin a hunt, then screw around and not test everything that you
There we go. That's the bottom line. Because
He didn't. That bull's dumb. Came back after a week. I called him back. He was really dumb, and
I didn't have any trouble that third time.
He did not have no trouble, buddy. He sent it like a pro, and that's so good. He didn't go 15 feet after it was over.
I guarantee you, Joe was. What just happened? Split second as he's knocking another arrow, made the corrections and went right. That now that the gear malfunction's one thing, but the ability to deal with a malfunction in that amount of time and still get your animal down and killed, right? That comes from that fit and function testing and the familiarity that you have with your gear. Sorry, I brain farted there. We start talking gear and my head starts firing.
But if the decoy didn't work so well and I hadn't had so much experience, then that's just a blown opportunity.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So then 3 things I see wrong. The biggest 3 things I see wrong is 3 areas, if you will. Okay. And I can go on for hours with this, and I'm not. So I got it narrowed down to a few things. Footwear, right?
Gore thick.
Most important, man.
If not the most important thing, if you are putting on miles, is your footwear system, right? You can't have a pair of boots and a pair of Haney socks, and you know what I mean. Just for me, mediocre. Joe has done it. Joe's throwing his hands up, but the doctor prescribed boots this year because of the problems with Joe's feet. right? And Joe is a man's man, and he went out there and he just did it year after year. Some of that is him being
that's
frugal as all
abnormal.
get up, right? But there is no replacing a good footwear system. A good pair of boots
Yeah.
that fit your foot, not that came recommended off of Mr. IG Hunter, and that's the reason
Right.
you bought them. They fit your foot.
Yep.
A good sock, right?
Very
Merino
good.
wool,
Yes.
something merino wool blend.
Woo-roo.
I prefer a seamless toe sock is my preference, but the thickness of the sock has a play on the volume, right? So fit and function. I'm trying that boot on with the sock that I like before I buy the boot. And if I have the opportunity, I'm trying that sock and that boot on before I buy both of them together. Then when you start talking insoles, some boots, I'll run them. My Salewas, I don't need an insole. I tried to run insoles in my Salewas this year, and I was like, man, these things are, throw them away.
So instead of giving
And Guy, they gotta use them before going to the woods.
I hadn't even got there, but you're
so
110%
that's where
right.
we should be, though. Instead of like giving them, because the seminar on the gear, what were the failure points? Number one, what I'm hearing is they don't work their system.
They don't work their system.
That's right.
Right? They're grabbing any old pair of boots off the shelf, off of a recommendation. Oh, I saw this guy in them, and they're super tight on me. That my feet are wide. This boot is narrow. My feet are narrow. This boot is wide. The one reoccurring thing is the amount of volume in the boot, right? That either they have or they don't have. And either scenario there is going to lead to hot spots and blisters, period, right? So again, fit and function on that.
It's fit and function, right? So
Yep.
that's really the bottom
So
line.
important,
Is no
though,
matter
man.
what you're going to do, make sure you use that ahead of time on that
Yes.
gear, man. That's the biggest mistake
That's-
we're seeing is people taking gear out without having experience with the
Don't
gear.
wait to break your boots in, your footwear system on the hunt.
And there's some boots, man, you can put them on and you can walk miles and not feel a thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that just, it happens to some folks and they love
Yeah.
it. And then they change boots and they go, man, what happened? This is the worst boot ever. Not necessarily the worst boot ever, but you didn't go through what you went through because you relied on that previous experience.
So there's the fit, and the function is according to like whatever the gear is, how it works within what you're doing. Like if you took boots, for example, one thing that I always did was I'd always take a sole and put it on something when I was deer hunting because I wanted something soft that wasn't going to be making
Clunk.
clunky sounds on rocks and different things like that. So you got to think about what you're doing. A pack. A pack is
Oh, don't let me get going on the pack.
well,
brother.
instead of talking about packs, I'm just going to say again the function part of it, right? The mistakes I see is that a lot of people get one on there and they haven't really shot with it, and they're enclosed that when they go to draw makes a because
not even the noise that it makes, right? It's uncomfortable. So now you put this pack on, you got 40 pounds in it,
And you
and
don't
then
know
you're
how to
drawing
adjust
and you're leaning back, or you're off camber and you got this weird ass angle that's going on. And then you got an animal down, right? You're lucky you killed an animal and you're ready to put them in your pack and pack it out. They don't even know how to do it. And you're sitting there in 70, 75, 80 degree weather in the beginning of September, and you're trying to figure out how to load the pack then. Then you
How do
put
you
it
take
on.
it apart?
Yeah, exactly. And then they take it apart trying to figure it out. And I can't put tab A labeled to tab A and tab B don't exist, right? So you're struggling, and now you've made a 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile hike miserable because the gear can't function the way it was designed to function because you didn't worry about fit and function before you got to the mountain.
right, and you didn't carry it with weight ahead of time, and now you're ending up with rub spots on your hips, your back, and you're trying to make those adjustments, which really makes for a long, miserable hike when you're stuff. So I think the main thing out of the gear that we're talking about here is ensuring that you are working with gear so that it fits and that you're ensuring that it functions within what you're doing so that you're able to shoot, so that you're able to move through brush, move through trees, so that it's not binding in certain ways, so it's not making you uncomfortable, so that it's not putting you in danger or putting you at an extreme situation where it just makes you miserable with wet feet or frozen toes.
Sore shoulders, sore hips.
Yeah.
Can I hit my last one, JoJo?
Yes, sir.
Your sleeping system. Whatever your sleeping system is, run through it,
Bring
right?
your pillow.
If you are gonna sleep on the ground, sleep on the ground, right? You got to understand how that feels. If you're gonna sleep in a hammock, some folks get, I don't know what it is about the mental aspect of the hammock, but again, fit and function. Go through it preseason, all of it, and just make sure that that's what you're comfortable with. If you have somebody you can borrow it from, borrow it before you spend the money, because a lot of what I saw was guys buying stuff, hadn't experienced it, hated it, but then had to use it just because they already spent the dollars on it, right? So if you can borrow it, just, out there spending money and hurting yourself in the long run. Sleep is as important, if not more important, than your feet are on the mountain. So
Yeah.
I'll go crazy on that stuff, but yeah, that's the biggest in the gear is the fit and the function, and folks just getting out there and testing it and making sure that that's the way it's going to go when they're on the mountain.
And when we start getting into January, February, and those are things, that we want to really have discussions about different types of sleep systems, how to utilize those systems, what works, what doesn't work, or works for us and might not work for somebody else. I mean, just as littlest things of having a little fleece cover on your pillow so that your face isn't freezing at night. Just little things, So
pillow. Take a pillow to the back.
and the big thing in that stuff as well is price. Like, some people have to buy the basic stuff. Other people can buy mid-range. Other people can buy top-end stuff with everything, packs, boots, everything. Some people just can't do that.
No, absolutely.
Save your money. Save your money, right? I mean, that's all there is to it. Save your money.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this. If it comes down to it, make sure you buy a tag. And then you might have to learn some things, and you might have to go through some uncomfortable days to be able to do some of this hunting until you get there. And all that's going to do is it's going to make you appreciate it more when you can get that one little item that makes you more comfortable. Because I tell you what, I hunted miserable for year after year after year and did not have the funds to be able to do those other things because I needed to pay for tags, I needed to pay for arrows and broadheads, or I wasn't killing anything. So, what we're telling you is things, if you listen though, it doesn't matter what the cost of that gear is, because you can find some great gear on sale. You can find them
used.
Yeah.
Guys are always upgrading, no matter what.
Absolutely.
Shit, I'm always upgrading. I got like 7 or 8 bins of stuff. So.
I'm looking at 4 packs right in front of me. I'm going, man, sell them.
He's going to be using one of those in a giveaway on a very soon ElkBros.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a perfect point though, right, Joe? Is if you want to backcountry hunt and you can't afford to get what you want, then base camp hunt and go get a cheapy old pack frame for $99 at Dick's Sporting Goods and use that and figure it out. Put a dry bag on that sucker. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way, right? So we're not saying don't go do it if you can't, spend the money, figure it out. But there's ways to get around it. But gear is huge, but it ain't killing it.
And that's that's the greatest point that and the greatest thing I'll drive home. If there's a will, there's a way. And there's like he said, there's a lot of people that have upgraded. You don't have to have the latest and greatest. There's incredible stuff out there that you can buy used and get great deals and do things that without having the new bow, the newest boot, the newest whatever. So,
I mean, and honestly, it's not a bad place to start, right? If somebody has, their full camo set up from Sitka or something that they're selling, hey man, why are you selling it? What did you like? What's wrong with this? Right? I mean, that's almost better than going to a retail outfit who they're paid to tell you that it's the greatest thing alive, and question, it's not a bad place to start.
No. And if you find a good friend, a lot of them have extra gear they never use. So, get out there and find it. The last area that I wanted to hit before we get out of here had to do with hunt strategies, because I just see so many things, and I'm not talking about whether you stalk or whether you call or anything like that. It's about some of the processes or the strategies that people use or how they think And I find that, and I'm just going to put it out there, y'all, man, too many people are looking for the easy button, you know? They're wanting to hunt the easiest country. They want the closest walking. They want to do more waiting, less working. They want to hunt prime time morning, prime time evening, and that's about it. So, and if that's not happening in those times, then they're lost. And I just see too much of that. It's like, well, I want to make sure that I'm going to get up and I don't I want to get out there when the sun's up. I don't want to get up there an hour or 2 hours earlier, and I don't want to hike out there 4 miles if I don't have to. And they will literally find justifications to not to.
Yeah,
I heard a bull in this area, right?
Some of them are legitimately scared of that low light condition, man. It's just part
Absolutely.
of their fears that they have,
Yep.
So
Or they're scared of having to hike back all the way back to camp from where they're at, right?
Sure.
Or getting left out there in the dark and coming back to camp at a time.
Camp is in the dark, just like the rest of the woods are in the dark. It's at the same goddamn time.
But for a lot of guys, man, that camp is like it's security, right?
I understand that, but my point is, it's a false sense of security.
It is.
Because whether you're a mile deep or
it's a real feeling that a lot of guys have.
Yeah, but you're in the same place.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
I'm not one that's going to shirk away from the dark. I mean, the same things that can get you in the light can get you in the dark. There's no difference. The only ability is up here, right? And it's that mental fortitude that you got to have, and you got to be able to push through. And
you don't do it, you'll never get past it.
100%. Yeah.
The funny,
feel the fear
the funny,
and do it anyway.
Yeah. The funny part is people think like we got the grizzly bears up here. They move at lunchtime. Like most of the bears you see are from 11 till 1 o'clock
because they figured out when we're sitting on our butts eating lunch. Easy pickings off a log.
It's so funny. You watch game cameras and that's when you see them, right? So
I mean, we were 10:30, Trav, and we're trekking through a little area, and I look down, and I'm like, my God, what is that? And Trav's like, oh, that's bear, and I'm like, that is a giant bear. And he didn't say anything because he didn't want to alert his wife to a lot. So we kept rolling through there, and then he turns around to me and he goes, hey, bro, that's a grizzly bear. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we're going the other direction. And it was fresh, steaming, dude. I mean, it was fresh, bro. I'm like, I said, let's go, Trav. I ain't even wanting to mess with no grizzly bear.
I just want to tell people, though, man, if you're picking the easy button, so are so many other people. So
no doubt.
I hear a lot of people talking about, well, I'm in the same place with all these other people and stuff like that. Well, get away from them. It's a lot easier to walk downhill and walk on level ground than it is to walk uphill and have to climb stuff, right? So that's where people are going to go. What they're going to do, they're going to go wade at water, even though I really think that is one of the biggest burns of time myself. They're going to wait on the edges of parks, which is a huge burn. If I'm rifle hunting, it's a different story. If I'm archery hunting, I mean, that is just a waste. You can see an elk, you might see one, but you're not going to kill it. So
how many bad pack outs have we had, boys? I mean, we were in some really rough places. It took a long time to get in there, and it was hell getting out.
But there's value in that statement, right? Definitely. I mean, you just dropped some pearls for folks that want to go get into elk. Right. And you said it over, and I would be curious to know how many folks that are listening that listen to all the episodes pick that up whenever Gil talks about them gnarly hikes and those gnarly pack outs. That's a ton of information.
We never had an easy one.
I've had a bunch of. I've been able to drive the four-wheeler within 100 yards several times, man, because a lot of people don't think that you can kill elk near 2 tracks, man, and I'm just telling you, that's the case. So I've had a lot of I've had some easy ones in my life.
My big bull wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. We were closer to a 2-track there, but we still had to get in there to him. It was
Yeah.
a chore
other-
getting to him.
The other strategy I want to talk about that I think a lot of people get burnt on is the morning chase and the evening sun race.
So,
You know, so many times people get out a little bit late, they hear a bull bugle, and then that bull, they start moving in on that bull, and that bull goes another 300 yards away. And then that bull, they move in and they're moving right in behind that animal each time, trying to get up on it. And then it's another 300 yards, and they move up and it's another 300 yards. So they're in that chase. And what gets me is a lot of times they give up on that chase right when those animals are actually getting to a bedding area, and they are in trouble following right up the rear end of them. They need to change that strategy. They need to get off to the parallel on them, when they do that. But a lot of times they do that and it's like, oh, he's just running away from me. They're not running away. They're going. It's hard to kill an elk that's not in a destination. When they're traveling to a destination, it's hard to stop them unless you are at that destination.
It took me 2 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right. And when I figured it out, I'm like, oh, it's like trying to stop a car on the freeway on a dime that's going 100 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, it is one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. And one of the most difficult lessons you'll ever learn, because it's so obvious once you figure it out. But when you're not paying attention to it, it's like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Why can't I get these animals to me? It's like, well, because they're 100 miles an hour on the freeway, buddy. And it wasn't until sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it wasn't until I actually stopped the bull that was following his cows, and I'm like, and he just stopped, he turned and looked, right? And then waited a few bits and then turned and just went off after them. And I go, oh, that's it there, right? He's going from A to B, and I'm sitting in the middle of A to B somewhere on that path, and I didn't cut them off. They're not coming. You got to get, if you're going to hunt them transition, you're going to have to be in front of them.
Yeah.
And that's mostly morning. You can hunt that transition in the evening a lot better than you can
in the morning. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
For me, I'd rather call a bull to me than go try to run him down. I mean, it's just the chances of you getting him interested when he's at a destination already, you have a much easier time of calling him out of that destination, or get him to at least keep sounding off, where you can go in there and put the Mohican sneaking on him and get in there and put a shiv in him. But if he's on his way to a destination with cows and everything, dude, like Guy said, it's like stopping rush hour traffic here in Houston, man. It ain't happening, dude.
They will sound off. That's one thing I know, is as they're in transition, if they're talking, they'll talk to you all the way to destination.
Again, because they're trying to make sure they can't see each other. They're in the timber. They're trying to let those cows know where they're at. They're keeping track of them, so they're
It
going
can be
to
miles in that destination, though, Guy. It can be miles.
Yeah, that's where you can move your focus from that herd bull to the satellite bulls that are going to be trailing up that whole herd.
Yep.
Boom.
You know what's interesting? You said that, Travis, and this year, you know what I saw was the herd bull keeping everyone, including the satellites, out in front. There was two instances, two different herd bulls. One had one had three, and he made sure that he had them out in front of the herd. And they kind of outskirt, here's the herd, and they're where's my camera? And they're kind of up in here, and they'd wait, and he'd just stay up behind. And they got to a certain distance, and there was a couple times where he, got a little pissed and yelled at them, and they'd scamper up. But it was always out front this year. It was interesting.
But what you're talking about, Trav, I actually experienced where a herd bull, the cows came through first. Here came the herd bull trailing them. And then in the jet stream, here came another, satellite that's just following them up as they're going, right? So Now, the one thing that I also wanted to talk about was, and take down the other side, is the evening sun race, because a lot of people do just the opposite. They actually wait at a destination till they start to hear that animal, and they're not in good enough position when they hear it that now they're racing the sun to try to get to them. And that's where I think actually, if you could be on their original bedding area where they were at, or in transition between that bedding area, they move a whole lot slower when they come out of bedding area and they're moving down.
Yeah.
You know, until they want to
They
just
almost
run
feed
down to
down.
water or to a field or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
They
You
almost
ha-
feed slowly down.
Yeah, you have to just take note in the morning when you're trying to follow them up in, get in that spot because they're coming back down, right? So just be there.
Within
Like Joe
100
says,
yards sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Don't go back to camp for lunch. Just have a nap right there, eat your sandwiches and your snacks and wait. I mean, you're out there anyways. It's probably by the time you're following those elk, it's probably 10 or 11 in the morning anyways. You only got to wait.
Call him out of a bed and kill him too.
Yeah.
Especially if you can get
exactly.
him answering you and talking.
Yep.
Well, that goes to the whole point, right? What Trav just said, stay out in the field.
Yep.
Right? Because I mean, man, how many dudes are sitting in camp at that, 10 o'clock, let's go back to camp, boys. Okay, it's 2:30, let's get back out there.
If it's the middle of September, you got to just stay out there. I mean, early season, if it's plus 30, maybe go back to camp. But middle of September and they're bugling, you're killing yourself to go back.
And I think the last thing that I wanted to say that I see a lot of people doing is they've had a spot where they called in a bull maybe on day one. And because they called a bull in at that spot, they spend the next 4 days going back to that same spot.
Bull's long gone,
Yeah, I mean, they just keep going to that same well time and time again, thinking that same thing that happened before is going to happen now. And there could have been a lot of things why it didn't happen in the first place. Either that bull smelled them, either that bull busted them, but and especially that time of year when the rut, those bulls are moving so much around. Don't think that you're going to now. If you got cows coming into the same area, then that's a well you can dip in a little bit. But just because you called in a bull there, don't think you're going to do it over and over again.
And something we learned in Canada too, the agriculture makes a big difference as well of how their movement is. They're going to be around that feed, man. They're slaves to their bellies, and as long as the cows are around there, they're going to be there. As long as you don't blow them up out of there, or some bears or wolves don't come in there and run them out. I mean, you got a shot. But those agriculture places, man, they hold a lot of elk,
And they switch it up too. It's just like us. We don't eat macaroni and cheese every day. And then we go to a burger, and then we get to a steak. The elk are the same, they'll eat something for a day or two, and then they move to something else. Eat off that for a little bit.
Out of house and home.
Absolutely.
And I think they just have they got a taste, and they would just get sick of it after a while. And let's get the butterscotch pudding instead of the,
And the other thing is, man, predators, if they're going to be that predictable, they may change up.
Make them move.
Yeah, just
I never have heard wolves in the wild howl like that. And when Dylan looked at me and he said, "You hear that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I hear coyotes all the time." He goes, "Oh no, that ain't no coyote."
No.
He goes, "That ain't no
Different
coyote,
tone.
brother." I said, "Well, man, I thought they'd be like," and then they started going together.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He said,
Different.
He goes, "And dude, they're awful close." I said, "Yeah, man, we probably ought to keep moving." I'm glad you said that, Big O. He's like, "Man, I didn't want to stick around." And they just kept getting closer and closer, man. The more elk sounds we made, the closer
they got.
Yeah.
Pretty wild, man.
Hey guys, man, I just Trav, man, it's been so awesome having you back with us this evening.
Yeah, you bet, buddy.
Don't be a
Thanks
stranger,
for having
brother.
us.
A pleasure to have you.
Good to see your mug, man, and all you guys. I want to thank you guys, everybody, and even the people that aren't here that contributed so much to this series. I think it's been a dynamite series. I think it's always good to reflect on things that you see, do, hear, especially yourself or other people, to help those people out there. And I think this has been just so I want to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Happy New Year's, and looking forward to 2024, y'all.
Won't be
Likewise.
long,
Amen.
Joe.
Good
Let
to
them
meet
know
you,
where
man.
we're
Yeah.
let them know where we're going to be starting out in 2024, Joe.
Yeah, so January 11th through the 14th, we will be at the Denver Convention Center for the International Sportsman's Expo. I'll be doing a couple of seminars. We'll have the booth set up. We're going to be recording some podcasts. Duplantier, you going to be there?
Planning to be, yeah.
Yeah. So
Big O's going to be in the house.
Gil's going to be there, man. We're going to be able to see some of the bros. I'm going to be yanking on Chav and RC getting their butts over there. We're looking forward to seeing all of y'all folks in Colorado that have been following us and been listening to us. And we're looking forward to shaking your hand, saying hello, meeting people. Bring your calls, bring your tube. I'll try to sell you a new one. But yeah, come
Don't
out
come
there.
by the booth if you ain't ready to buy something. Big O's going to strap it on you.
Hey Joe, can I drop a plug real quick if you don't mind?
Absolutely, boss.
So everybody, Western Hunt Fest 2024 is going to be off the Richters, right? I mean, it's going to be the best 3D shoot you've ever been to, right? With the seminars, with the pack out challenge, with the sprint challenge, the elk calling comp. We got events in Colorado, Reno, Nevada, New Mexico. So you'll see us in Raton. We'll be at the Air Force Academy in Colorado, Cameo in Colorado, Silver Arrow Bowman in Reno, Nevada, and then we'll be coming back. This year we changed our point system, so we're going to have a championship. We're going to take all our competitions, the sprint challenge, the elk calling comp, your archery shoot, and the infamous pack out challenge. We're going to combine those scores, and then we're going to invite a handful of folks, men and women, to come and compete in Bailey, Colorado at our original venue, to wrap up the season and give one heck of a prize package away.
So there's going to be winners at each competition, at each shoot, and then there's going to be an overall competition, correct?
We're going to bring it all together, and that person's just going to, I mean, you want to talk about a prize package? You ain't never seen a prize package like that.
Where can the listeners go to get dates for that, brother?
Jump on westernhuntfest.com. You could hit us on Instagram at Western Hunt Fest. You could reach out to myself at Western Contours, reach out to my partner Ephraim over at Pack 'em Out Apparel, and then Jeffrey's the one kind of running the Western Hunt Fest Instagram. So all three of us are always available. Reach out to Joe, reach out to Gil, Manano, Travis, if you got any Canadians that want to come down and take a whooping. Y'all come down and join us. And Trav, you're more than welcome, man, to come down if you'd like to spend a weekend shooting and throw elk calling seminar and get whopping.
ElkBros will be at a few of those as well. I'm looking forward to doing seminars. I love the events, where this has come from. And Guy, I'm so glad to see you joining up with Ephraim and Jeffrey and making this and taking this just to the next level, because it is such a cool event.
Yeah, this event's going to change the way you prepare for season.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
We are the litmus test for season, so.
Very cool.
Well, and 2024 is going to be a year to remember, Guy. I can just feel it. It's going to be an epic year. A lot of growth on y'all's side, Trav's side, our side as well. It's going to be phenomenal. And these podcasts that we're doing has been awesome all year long. I want to wish everybody a big Texas Merry Christmas from Big O and his family here. We're busy down here chasing whitetails and wild hogs and having a great old time up here. I'm getting ready to spend some time with my kids in the woods. So we're truly blessed to be able to do what we're doing. And we want to keep doing that. I know, Guy, you're really passionate about some of the the conservation things that you're doing with Howl and stuff like that. So guys that want to get more involved in Howl and whatnot, please, go to that site and help our brothers up out of the north, to support them for, a lot of legislative things that are coming up from Colorado and New Mexico, stuff like that. So we want to keep it wild up there and be able to keep using our resources. And that takes all of us speaking up and having a voice. So, Guy, I know you're out front leading that charge too. So whatever we can do to help on that front, we're here to help you, brother. Yep.
Appreciate
for
it.
sure.
Yep.
And guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us. and be sure to include your name and where you're from to get in our drawing on the Spin a Winner wheel. And you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com, and you can check out our, we're outfitters now in New Mexico. You can check out our content on ElkBrosAdventures.com as well. And reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on the show, just send your questions to info@ElkBros.com. That's info@ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broadheads sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next year on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
God bless.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Feliz Navidad.
Happy
Look
New
at that.
Year.
Manano went balloons.
Feliz Navidad
balloon.
and
Yeah.
prospero años to our brothers to the south.
Work's been tough, and the days are dragging by. Nothing seems to go my way, and I'm ready to say goodbye to all of this garbage on TV. I believe I'm better off in the mountains peacefully, where the leaves are green and the air is nice and dry. Hit the forward button, man, it's almost time. Is it September yet? I'm all in. Flinging sticks in the high country, let the games begin. Is it September yet? My tank is full of gas. If you don't sign that leaf slip, boss man, I'm out of here. You're gonna kiss my ass. Is it September yet? Is it September yet? Summer goes fast. Yeah, fall is coming. We'll be here before you know it, man. While I'll be running and gunning. It's time to be savage, not average. When the old bull's screaming, the sun's coming over the ridge right now. All those canyons, they'll be singing. Is it September yet? I'm all in. Time to leave July behind me and make August a has-been. Is it September yet? I can't take this pain no more. Bugling bulls in the mountain air is what I'm living for. Is it September yet? Is it September yet? Oh yeah! Dice, gonna take it all in every morning and night. Play them big old bowls like an old Hank tune. When the shot is right, you know I'm gonna send it. Money in the bank shot, you know I'm gonna spend it all at once. I won't have no regrets. Is that